Hi, everyone. Welcome to our C6 workshop today. For those of you that don't know what C6 is, it's a program that we have going on here in the Central Coast. It's an alignment of 8 California community colleges, ranging from Moore Park all the way up to Santa Cruz. And we're all California community colleges on the Central Coast working together to bring resources to all of our students within the 8 community colleges, specifically in the areas of STEM. My name is Christine Reed. I'm the project director and I work for Allen Hancock College. And I've been with the college for 27 years. I'm a counselor and my area of expertise is STEM for the last 15 years. And then for the whole 27 years, I've worked specifically with university transfer. I oversee the STEM academic support program here and do all the STEM counseling. I am super excited to have Kate Porter today presenting for you, joining us from Cuesta College. And I'm going to turn over the floor to her, and we're excited that you're all here today to learn from her on transfer basics and specifically Cal Poly as well. So Kate, all yours.
All right, thanks, Christine. I am going to go ahead and start with sharing screen with y'all, and then I'm going to just share with you who I am here. There we go. Hopefully you can see my PowerPoint. And so anyways, hello, welcome to University Transfer Basics and Cal Poly Transfer Planning. My name is Kate Porter, and I am a counselor at Cuesta College. I also coordinate our University Transfer and Career Center. I've worked as a counselor at Cuesta for, 22 years now. And before we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself with y'all. So I love working with transfer students. I do host a lot of workshops for Cuesta College. I actually began my educational journey in higher education at Sacramento State University, and then ended up getting my master's degree at Cal Poly SLO. And so I'm excited to share with you some of this information in the workshop today. This is about a 75-minute presentation. So we're going to leave some time at the end for maybe 10 minutes or so for questions. And I do ask that y'all remain muted during the presentation. That way we just don't hear each other's background noise, and hopefully you don't hear any background noise in my house either. But I do invite you to use the chat if you have any questions as I'm working through the slides. I know it's going to be a lot of information, and I want to make sure to answer any questions that you might have as I move through the information. So feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat. I've got my chat box open here, and I'll keep an eye on it so I can make sure I answer any questions that you might have. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, we are going to start with talking about some myths about California Community College. And then we're going to talk about the path from, and I said Cuesta, but let's make it community college, whichever community college you're at. We're going to talk about the path from your community college to university and take a little bit of a look at the big picture and what that looks like. We're going to talk about CSUs, or California State Universities, versus UCs, or University of California system. What is the difference between the two? We're going to talk about some guaranteed admission programs, because everybody loves a guarantee, right? So we have the CSU ADT program and the UC TAG program that we're going to talk about. I'm going to dive a little bit into Cal Poly transfer planning and some considerations that you might want to think about related to preparing for Cal Poly. We're also going to look at out-of-state and private university transfer considerations, and then I'm just going to end off with a few tips for you all for a successful and smooth transfer. So the first myth that I want to dispel is that universities prefer freshman admits to transfer students. And the reality of the case, of the situation, is that many universities actually, they've started to increase their percentages of transfer students and transfer admits, because they've found that transfer students have proven themselves. They have demonstrated their drive and determination already through the work that they've done at their community college, and they have already adjusted to college life. So we are seeing this shift, and it really started with the UC system. And now some private universities are actually kind of following that lead as well. I actually just read an article yesterday that Cornell University now admits twice as many, the percentage of transfer admits every year is now twice that of their freshman admits. So we're seeing more and more universities kind of follow this lead. And the UC system has significantly increased their percentage of transfer admits because when they looked at the data, they saw that their transfer students actually had higher course completion rates, they had higher overall GPAs, and higher and faster graduation rates than their freshman admits. So that's pretty cool, to see this shift happen over the past 10 years with transfer. Now, another myth that is out there is you'll go to community college for 2 years and just do your GE, and really the emphasis is on that word just there. The reality of the situation is that transfer requirements do involve much more than GE. And when we're talking about STEM majors, for some STEM majors that are considered high unit majors like sciences or engineering, GE is sometimes not prioritized at all. So, there's really been a shift as far as what students need to do to prepare for transfer as well. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today. The other part of that statement that's a myth is that it can certainly take students longer than 2 years to transfer. And I say that because I really want you to know that whatever your journey is through community college to your university is your personal journey. And the amount of time that you spend at your community college preparing for transfer could really depend on a lot of different factors. So first, your major. And, as I mentioned, science and engineering majors have a lot to do to prepare for transfer. So sometimes for those majors, it can take them longer to actually get their preparation work done. Also, the level of math and English classes that you start in at your community college can kind of determine how long it'll take you to progress through your sequences, especially if you have a lot of math to do for preparation. If you're working or you have life circumstances, or if for any reason you have to drop or you fail or you have to repeat classes, that can certainly influence the amount of time at your community college as well. So I just like to say this so that you give yourself a little bit of grace with this whole process, and know that whatever your journey is, whether you're really laser focused on trying to transfer in 2 years, you can certainly work with your counselor to try to write up a plan to make sure that can happen. But if it takes you longer than that, that's perfectly okay too. So now I like to start by giving an overview of the big picture. We're going to talk a lot about the details and the little important aspects of transfer that you need to be aware of. But I always think kind of, grounding the conversation in thinking about the big picture for a minute is important, because it gives you a little sense of perspective of what the whole journey or path ahead is going to look like. So if we look at this graphic here, you can see what the progression is going to look like for a student who enters a community college with the plans to transfer to a four-year university, all the way through their work, up to the top where it says that student is earning their bachelor's degree. And so when a student starts at a community college, they're going to be working on what's considered lower division preparation work. And your lower division time at community college is going to be your freshman and sophomore years of college, just as if you were at that four-year university as a freshman or sophomore student. Now, as you're moving through your lower division units, you're going to be accruing transferable units, and the magic number to strive towards earning is 60 transferable units. And you can see it broken down. If you're really focused on a 2-year track, then your goal is really going to be trying to target getting 30 credits or units done in each of those 2 years. And like I said, if it takes longer than that, that's perfectly fine as well. And what I'm showing you here is a 4-year track, but I think it's also important to note that if we look at the data of what the national average is for students who start at a 4-year university to completing their bachelor's degree, it is about a 5-year average track for students to earn their bachelor's degrees. So if it takes longer at your community college before transfer, just know that's okay. You're still probably right on track with the average. And so a little bit more about lower division preparation. So your lower division at your community college is really going to consist of 3 key pieces: major preparation courses, general education courses, and elective courses to get you to that 60 transferable units. Now, the goal of 60 is to get you into your university at junior standing. And many of our CSU campuses and all of our UCs want students to be transferring in as juniors, so that when you start at that university, you're in your junior year, you're diving into your upper division coursework. And really at that point, you're going deep into the major courses. So you're diving into your upper division major courses. You've got a couple upper division general education classes that you might need to take for your major as well. And usually those are embedded into your major and a part of your major. And then at that point, you can also choose to also add on a minor or any elective courses if you want to get to that 120 units, which is about the average number of units it takes at a 4-year university to earn a bachelor's degree. Sometimes it's a little more than that. I think my bachelor's degree at Sacramento State University was like 124 units, something like that. But so this kind of shows you what the big picture looks like. And now you can see where you are on this trajectory towards, working through your lower division coursework and how that all relates to the big picture of earning your bachelor's degree. So as I just mentioned, and I just want to reiterate, the 3 key parts of transfer preparation are general education, which really we want to look at the specific GE required for admission requirements. Sometimes it's not a matter of completing an entire general education pattern, but it's just looking at the GE that you need to be eligible to be admitted at that university that you're interested in. And then major prep courses. Now, this is incredibly important. You're going to hear me talk a lot about major prep because universities want to have you coming in with the lower division requirements for your major done, and we call that major prep. And then lastly, those electives or graduation requirements that you can take in order to get to the 60 credits that you need, or to get some additional graduation requirements completed before transfer. So when we're talking about general education, and I'm not going to dive deep into this because I know each of your colleges has your own GE patterns, and hopefully you're familiar with those, and maybe you're working towards one of the GE patterns. But as a rule of thumb, there are 2 general ed patterns in California. One is the CSU General Ed Pattern, or CSU GE, and the other, we call it the IGETSI. It stands for Intersegmental General Education Transfer Curriculum. And as I mentioned before, for some majors, you do not need to have your, and some universities, you don't need to have your GE completed before transfer. But if you wanted to try to get your GE completed before transfer, it's not a bad idea, especially if you're not in one of those high unit majors that requires a lot of prep on the front end. If you can get your general ed completed at your community college before transfer, then you do want to make sure to get it certified in your final year. So that way, when your community college sends your transcript over to the university you're going to be attending, it's stamped on that transcript and marked that you're GE certified. You have no more lower division general education requirements to complete towards your bachelor's degree. And I'm sure on your websites, you can find links to your CSU GE pattern. Now, just to really emphasize that that pattern is specifically set up for the California State University system. So if you are laser focused on transferring to a CSU, so like Cal Poly SLO, San Diego State, this could be a great pattern for you to follow. If, however, you want to keep your options open, maybe you're interested in California State universities, but you're also thinking about UC campuses or some private out-of-state universities, then I would encourage you to follow the IGETC pattern instead, because the IGETC is the pattern. It works for CSUs just fine, but it also works for the University of California or UC system, and it is more likely to work for private or out-of-state universities. So you can find more information about your GE patterns on your specific community college websites, or talk with your counselor about which GE pattern you should follow, and if you should complete your GE in entirety or just focus more on the minimum GE that you need to be admitted and your major preparation courses. And on that note, let's talk a little more about major preps. So major prep, as I said, is so important. And as we work through our slides here, I'm going to be dropping some links in the chat for you all. And the first one is assist.org. This website is a really important website to use. If you haven't already started using it, you really want to start now, and you want to look up your universities that you're interested in. You're going to go ahead and put in the community college that you're attending, and find out what classes those universities are going to require for your major. Now, this major preparation is especially important when we're talking about competitive universities. So if we're talking about Cal Poly SLO, San Diego State, UCLA, UC Berkeley, any of the UCs actually, we really want to emphasize how important major prep is for you to complete. And many times there are really specific requirements of courses that you absolutely must take before transfer, or else you're not going to be admitted. So here's a snapshot of what assist.org looks like, and I dropped that link in the chat for y'all. But what assist shows us is called articulation. And articulation is when a course has been determined to be equal at a community college and a four-year university. So it is basically going to assure that your major preparation courses will work to meet your requirements for your CSU or your UC campus that you're interested in transferring to. So just an example of this is our Psych 201 that we offer at Cuesta College. We can see on assist.org that that is equivalent to Psych 202 at Cal Poly SLO and Psych 1 at UC Santa Barbara. So if those courses are required for a student to complete before transfer, we know through Assist that those courses will work at your community college. And essentially, as I mentioned before, you're going to put in the academic year that you're currently in right now, your community college that you're attending, and then any CSU or UC that you're interested in seeing the agreement with. And it's important to use Assist for all the universities that you're considering applying to, because for certain majors, you might have different course requirements at different universities, even if they're in the same system. So for example, you might see different requirements for a biological sciences major at UC Santa Barbara than you would see at UCLA. And Assist is what's going to show you what those required courses are for your major. So here's a screenshot of an articulation agreement by major, just to show an example for UCLA with Cuesta College for anthropology. And I just wanted to note that sometimes the wording at the top of the Assist guide can be quite lengthy, but it is really important to read through it carefully, because sometimes it'll break down what is absolutely required for you to complete. And many times it's bolded, but sometimes it just doesn't jump out at you as much as we wish that it would, what is required of students. But you can see on this guide, it does say students need to complete a minimum of 2 prep courses listed below. So we would know that you would not be eligible if you only had one of the courses from the list there. Now, it's also important to note that Assist will show you what's required for admission, but Assist can also show you information beyond that. And Assist can also show courses that could work that meet requirements for your major at the university that you're interested in, but they might not be courses required for admission. So we want you to be able to identify the two and really hone in on the courses that you're going to need to take in order to be admitted at that university. Focus on those first, And then if there's additional courses on that guide, so for example, the third option from the list below, we would want you to try to weave that into your plan at your community college if there's space in your schedule. But it's always more important to prioritize those specific major prep admission requirements that you read on Assist. And the extra courses that you might find on here, you can try to take those later if you have space for them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about these two public university systems in California and what is the difference between the two. So I did already mention that CSU stands for California State University. This is actually the largest university system in the United States. There are 23 campuses. They offer this more hands-on approach to learning. And you might have heard Cal Poly's motto is learn by doing. That's really more of the CSU way of teaching, is learning through experience or hands-on learning. And that's why the CSU system, you're going to find majors that are going to lead you to specific careers in the future. Majors like nursing, business administration, nutrition, kinesiology, construction management, criminal justice, also preparing for teaching. So if you're thinking kindergarten through 6th grade teaching, liberal studies is the right major choice for that. And that's a major you would find at the CSU system. Now, you're also going to find the more standard typical majors at the CSUs as well. So you're going to find English and mathematics and psychology and anthropology and all those other majors as well. But just so you understand that the CSU's approach really is to give you an education that hopefully is going to connect you to the information that you need to be successful in the career path related to your major as well. Now, the UC system, or the University of California system, these universities are some of California's most prestigious universities, and they're typically ranked as some of the best universities in the United States. I believe it was last year in the Forbes rating, for the first time ever, a public university was ranked the #1 university in the nation, and that was UC Berkeley. So it's pretty exciting that in our state, we have some of these phenomenal university options. And you probably know, but UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC San Diego are really considered some of the top universities in America. And they're also designated as California's primary academic research institutions. So this is the way the state funds research, is through the University of California system. So most of the professors at a UC are actually involved in research. Many of them are involved in publication as well. So they are really kind of at the cutting edge of their fields and have the most current, up-to-date information about those majors and discipline areas. You're going to find majors at the UC system that have a little bit more of a focus on theory and research and analysis because of this whole background, this whole way that the UC system works. But you're also going to find some really cool internship and study abroad opportunities at the UC system as well, to help kind of supplement that theory-based learning approach at the UC. And as I mentioned earlier, the University of California system, you know, it used to be that, and you might have felt this way in high school, that the UC system was kind of out of reach. It's very competitive academically, very hard to get in, very high GPA required for admission. But I'll tell you, with transferring, it's a whole different ballgame. And the UC system loves transfer students and has really opened the doors to transfer students. And because of some of the opportunities and programs they've created, we're going to talk about one in a minute. I really do encourage you to consider all your options, and to not only consider just the CSU system or just the UC system, but look at both and see if there are maybe some campuses in both systems that could be a good fit for you. So many times students will ask, what schools have my major? And when you're doing the research and we're talking about what is a good list of campuses for you, for kind of preparing for transfer, there's a great website. It's called transferbound.com, and I'm going to put this in the chat for you all as well. And Transferbound is a website where you can actually go in and search by area and then specific discipline within that area to see which CSUs and UCs offer your major. And so, for example, I did a search here in my example for communications and then narrowed it down to communicative disorders. This was actually my undergraduate major at Sacramento State University. And then you can see the links here to all these programs offered throughout California. And these links will take you right into that campus website with information about that specific program. So TransferBound is a great way to see what all your options are for your specific majors at the CSU and the UC systems. So when we're talking more about the California State University system, you can see the campus map here. We've got those 23 campuses spread throughout the state. And the website that you're going to want to use is called calstate.edu. You can actually do a lot of great research on calstate.edu, and they have a campus matching tool, which is really cool to use as well. So you could go ahead and look by major. You could look by campus characteristics like campus size, demographics. But I always encourage students when we're talking about how to really finalize your list of schools. So first, of course, you want to see which schools offer your major. But then location is also very important. We want you to be in a place where you're going to feel like you're going to thrive as a person. So I know some students, they feel like they need to be near the coast. So they're going to look for all the coastal schools, and maybe they're passionate about surfing or kayaking, so they need to be near the ocean. Sometimes, students will prefer Northern California to Southern California, or the Valley, because they want to be close to their family support system. So whatever list is right for you is what's right for you, but definitely looking to see which schools offer your major, and then kind of narrowing it down, doing some research to see what the campuses are like, what the campus culture is like on campus, what resources they have to offer, and then creating a list. Now, I'm a firm believer that it's important to have a dream school. I think a dream school is what helps motivate students and gives you that extra little push academically. It gives you that added drive to really try to get the best grades that you can. So always have a dream school on your list. And then I'd say it's safe to have maybe 1 or 2 or even 3 schools that we think we're pretty comfortable with you being admitted at that school. We think you have a pretty good shot at it, and your counselor can have that kind of a conversation with you about whether they think you're pretty likely based on the data to be admitted at that school. But then I always recommend a backup plan. I think it's really important to have a backup school, and that's where those guaranteed admission programs come into play. They can give you that backup so that you can rest assured that you're going to be admitted somewhere and you're going to be able to go somewhere. So when we're talking about full preparation for transfer to a California State University, and again, this is talking about getting you into that CSU as a junior, here's what you need to have. You really need to have those 60 transferable units that we talked about, and they need to be CSU transferable credits. Now, it's also good to know that you can transfer a maximum of 70 credits to a CSU or a UC campus to be applied towards your bachelor's degree unit totals. So when we're thinking back to that graphic, that 120 units to get your bachelor's degree, they're going to allow you to apply 70 lower division credits towards that total. And that's because they want you to complete a certain amount of units at that university. All right, so it's good to know there's a cap there. Now, if you have been at community college for a long time and you've done over 70 units, sometimes we have students that are over 100 units. If they're all lower division credits, it's not a problem. It's not going to hurt you. Don't worry about it being a concern for admission's sake. Okay. Now, the Golden 4 is a part of the CSU GE that's very important. Now, these CSU GE areas, you can find it on your CSU general ed pattern for your college, but essentially these are areas A1, which is a communications course, A2, which is your written communication or like an English composition course, A3, which is critical thinking, and B4, which is a mathematics course. So these 4 courses are considered the Golden 4 because they're that important to the CSU system. You're not going to be admitted at a CSU without the Golden 4. Now, with that said, there are a few exceptions to that rule. And for any of our engineering majors in the room, you might want to check with your counselor to see if there is an exemption for critical thinking for you as an engineering major. Some schools do have this, but it's really important to do the research and make sure that that's the case and not make an assumption on that. Now, we talked about the general education already, and that you can consider getting that completed before transfer. In some cases, it's a great idea to do that. And then the major preparation requirements for your specific major are so important. You do need to have a minimum 2.0 transfer GPA to be eligible for admission at a CSU campus. But I'll say that for impacted campuses and majors, you really need to target a much stronger GPA than that 2.0 minimum. Now, talking about impaction, what does impacted mean? So we do have impacted campuses in the CSU system and impacted majors. And impacted simply means that that school or that major is receiving far more applications than they can accommodate. So it makes admissions more competitive for transfer students. Now, some CSUs are fully impacted campuses, and Cal Poly SLO is one of those. Some schools have just certain majors at that school that are impacted. So for example, nursing programs at many of our CSUs, so like San Francisco State, most of their majors are not impacted, but the nursing program is an impacted major. So again, the important considerations when we're talking about impacted campuses or impacted majors, that's where that GPA becomes incredibly important, and making yourself a competitive applicant is something that you're going to want to strive for. For the CSU system, there is a program called Associate Degrees for Transfer. We also call them ADTs for short. But this is one of those guaranteed admission opportunities that I was mentioning we were going to talk about. And the ADT program was actually set up by the CSU system to help community college transfer students work seamlessly through their freshman and sophomore years of lower division requirements, so that they will transfer right into that junior level standing, right where that CSU wants them when they're admitted and starting their time at the CSU. Now, these ADTs, they're great because you get a token associate's degree from your community college by completing it. But they're also very beneficial if you're thinking about CSU impacted campuses, or if you're going to be applying to multiple CSU campuses. For some of our CSUs, like for San Diego State, for example, because all of our community colleges are outside of their local service area, really the way to get into San Diego State is by having an associate degree for transfer in your major if they accept it. So for certain CSUs, especially those very competitive CSUs like San Diego, Long Beach, San Jose, you really want to think about earning this associate degree for transfer if you're thinking about an impacted campus or major. Now, the guarantee piece of this is that you are also going to be given guaranteed admission to a non-impacted CSU campus. And the way this works is that if you apply to CSU campuses that accept your ADT and your major, but worst case, you're not admitted at any of those schools you applied to, you're actually going to be sent an email by the CSU system asking you where you would like your degree or your application redirected to for free. So they will actually give you a list of campuses that still have space in your major, and you get to choose where you want to have your application redirected. And the goal of this is to find a campus where they still have space there that you can be admitted at. So there is guaranteed admission to at least one non-impacted CSU campus. Now, for some schools, like I said, for San Diego State, it puts you in that higher priority group for being competitive. For other schools, they give you a little bit of a perk, like a GPA bump. And I know Cal State Long Beach is one of the schools that does this. If you're earning an ADT and a major that they accept it for, you actually can get a 0.1 GPA bump. And so For example, if you have a 3.4 GPA in your community college, just for the sake of admission, they're going to look at you as if you were a 3.5 GPA. So there are all these little perks to help towards admission or priority admission consideration at some CSU campuses. But it is important to note that not all CSUs accept ADTs. And unfortunately, Cal Poly SLO is one that only accepts 6 ADTs. I believe there's over 40 plus, maybe 45 or more ADTs available to students out there at different community colleges. I believe at Cuesta we have 39, but unfortunately Cal Poly only accepts 6. So it's important to look and see if your CSU campuses that you're interested in accept your ADT. There's a website for that. So I want to show you this website, and I'm going to drop this in the chat. This is the tool that I look at with students to see if their CSU campuses will accept their ADT. And so you can put in your major and the community college that you're attending, and then the CSU campuses that you're interested in, and then it will provide for you a list of those CSU campuses that will accept your associate degree for transfer. And it will also show you the concentration or major emphasis within that department that you will need to make sure you identify when you apply to that CSU so that you can get that additional priority for earning that ADT. So this is a great website to use to make sure that your CSUs are going to be honoring your ADTs. So for an associate degree for transfer, what is needed? You need those CSU admission requirements we already talked about. You need to take all the major courses for your specific associate degree for transfer at your community college. So you're going to find that information on your campus website. You'll need a C or better grade in all your major courses. When you apply to your CSU campuses, you are going to need to make sure that you report that associate degree for transfer in your CSU application so that the CSU knows you're earning that associate degree for transfer. And then lastly, in your final year, you're going to want to submit an associate's degree application to your community college so that they know you're earning that degree and they can award you the associate's degree. All right, so while we're talking about California State Universities, this is a perfect time to dive a little bit deeper into Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this one specific CSU campus because we know that there's so much interest because Cal Poly is a phenomenal university and they are definitely, they're the most competitive of the CSU campuses. They're also the most desirable to a lot of students because of the great reputation that they have, especially in their engineering, agriculture, some of their program areas that just have this amazing reputation. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about what you're going to need to be a competitive applicant for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So this is a similar recap to what we talked about, the CSU admission requirements. Cal Poly has those same admission requirements that we already touched on. So we're really not going to dive too much into this. Those CSU transfer requirements, the 60 units, you still need those at Cal Poly SLO to be eligible for transfer. And it's important to note that these courses these units need to be completed by the end of the spring term prior to the fall that you want to transfer. So if you're in your final year at your community college right now, and you're going to be applying for transfer this fall, it's important to know that the classes that you have in progress for fall and planned for spring will work to meet your Cal Poly transfer requirements, the 60 units, your major preparation, all that good stuff. But summer will not work. So you do not want to plan to have any of those requirements needed in the summer. You need to have them done by the end of spring. As I mentioned before, those Golden 4 GEs are important to Cal Poly as well. And for some engineering majors, I believe there's only 5 now that do not require critical thinking. It used to be that the majority of their engineering majors didn't require critical thinking, but they had a shift this last year and they actually added a critical thinking requirement to many of their engineering majors. So I'm going to show you a tool in a minute where you can see if you're an engineering major, if that critical thinking requirement stands for your major. Now, the competitive GPA, this is incredibly important. We're going to look in a second about what kind of GPA to target for the college that your major is in. And then the major required and desired coursework is incredibly important, and I'm going to show you where to find that information. Now, as I mentioned before, your general education completion is not required for admission to Cal Poly SLO. However, it says on their website that you will get maximum consideration if you do have all of your GE completed. So because Cal Poly processes their applications through a computerized program that assigns points or consideration for different areas embedded into that application, we know that it does look for GE completion, and the more GE you have completed, the more consideration you will get towards admission. Now, what else does Cal Poly consider? And this is a question we get asked often at Cuesta, because we are, one of the bigger feeder colleges for Cal Poly SLO. So there are some other pieces to this Cal Poly transfer planning puzzle. One of them is a question they ask on the application related to work experience. So this is if you're working while you're in community college. And the question asks the number of hours you work per week. And I believe it's over the past 36 months. And then if 25% or more of your work is related to your major. So it gives you these two simple questions in the application. And if you do max out on those number of hours of work per week, or even, have some hours in there, you are going to get some consideration for that. And same with your major being connected to your work. Another question on the application is related to extracurricular activities. So it actually asks you the number of hours per week that you're involved in activities. And if any of those activities you had a leadership position in, or you did some leadership work. So when we're talking about extracurricular activities, this could be any clubs you're involved in, any volunteer work that you've done, any organizations that you didn't, donate time to. It can also be any activities that you do on a regular basis consistently and that you spend your time doing. So for example, if you are an avid pianist and you love to play the piano and you practice 10 hours a week, Cal Poly SLO has said that that is an activity that you can account for in that time allotment. So these are two different parts of the application. I'll tell you that is not a lot of consideration or points for these two questions or these two areas, but it is a little something. Now, we also know our local high school graduates with local area of residence are given additional consideration. So this is the San Luis Obispo, Southern Monterey, and Northern Santa Barbara counties. If you graduated from a high school within those areas, that's considered Cal Poly SLO's local service area. You will get additional consideration for being a local. I mentioned the associate degrees for transfer and how Cal Poly SLO does not honor or accept many of them, but they do accept 6. And so if any of these majors are your majors, you might want to talk to your counselor if to see if earning an ADT could be a good idea for you, knowing that it would give you some additional consideration for poly. So we've got chemistry, environmental science, and actually that translates over to the environmental management and protection major at Cal Poly SLO. Music, philosophy, political science, and theater arts. So these are the ADTs that can help give you a little edge if you're in those majors. Now, 3 majors at Poly also require a portfolio submission. So if you're an art and design major or an architecture major or a music major, then you're going to want to review Cal Poly's portfolio pages for each of those majors for more information, and know that really your portfolio submission is going to be critical to your competitiveness. So you're going to want to invest some good time and energy into preparing your portfolio, because once you're invited to submit portfolio, really that's what they're going to be admitting you on, is your work submitted in that portfolio. And then also veteran status. So our veterans are given additional consideration, as they should be, for serving our country. So that is something that Cal Poly has on their website as well, that our veterans do get some additional consideration. So Cal Poly, when they're talking with students, they always encourage students to choose your major early, and your community college counselors will do the same, especially when it comes to these competitive universities like Cal Poly SLO, or some of our UC campuses. The reason it's good to choose your major early is because then you can get started on those preparation courses that you need early on and weave those into your 2 or 3 or however many years it takes for you to transfer. Now, there's this really neat tool on Cal Poly's admissions page, and I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you all. But this tool is an Explore Our Majors feature. And I like to show this to show that there are different ways or different majors that can lead you to similar career paths. So I put this link in the chat. But if you're thinking you have a specific career that you're really interested in pursuing, you can look at this to see all your major options at Cal Poly that could be a good fit for that career path. So for example, I pulled up physician's assistant just to show that, you know, typically students that want to go in these kind of medical pathways like a PA program prep, they would take a biological sciences major or a biochemistry or chemistry because of those science requirements for PA school. But you could also get there as a kinesiology major or a nutrition major or a microbiology major. So this is a neat tool because it can show you, if you're really focused on a specific career trajectory, it can show you the different majors at Poly that could lead you there. Once you see these majors, I would encourage you to do the research to check the requirements for each of these majors as well, and then see which courses kind of more align with what you want to study and what you're excited to study. You can also use this tool to look at what you, if you love studying certain subjects, you can use it for that way, or just to browse through Cal Poly majors. But as I mentioned before, all majors at Poly are impacted. So it's important to look at what we call the required and desired courses for each major. And I'm going to show you how to find those now. So on that Cal Poly admissions link that I dropped in the chat, you're going to see a page that looks like this. Now at the top it says transfer student, and under this drop down, you're going to see all these great things that I would encourage you to spend time reading through each one, because it's all really practical, pertinent information for transferring to Cal Poly SLO. It goes into the specifics that we already talked about the what counts for consideration and what doesn't, when to apply, resources to help you with your application. But the one thing I really want to hone in on is the selection criteria for transfer students. And if you click on that link, you're going to see a page that looks like this, and a box on the right side, and you're going to want to click on major specific transfer criteria. From there, you're going to pick your specific major at Cal Poly, and it's going to show you, it's going to talk a little bit about these required courses for your major, how important those are, the desired courses, how important these are. And then we want you to choose the course listing that is closest to the term that you want to transfer into Cal Poly SLO. So if you're in your final year right now at your community college, and you're going to be applying this fall for fall 2023 transfer, you want to be using the fall 2023 course listing guide here for your major. Now, if you're going to be transferring next year or applying next year to transfer for fall 2024, then the new guide for 24 should be out sometime in the next few months. They usually release it about this time of the year, so we're kind of waiting for that to be released. So you can keep your eye on this website, and once that fall 2024 guide comes up, you're going to want to make sure that you're completing all those classes for that specific guide. Now, when you look at the transfer course criteria for your specific major, as I mentioned, you're going to want to make sure that your plan includes all of the required courses on this list. They're critical, and your likelihood of admission at Cal Poly without missing one, or if you're missing one of these required courses, is going to be pretty slim. So you want to make sure to have all those required courses accounted for on your education plan when you meet with your counselor to write up that plan. Now, the desired courses will make you a much more competitive applicant. So we know, at schools like Hancock and Cuesta that are always working with students that are interested in transferring to Cal Poly SLO, we can really see how these desired courses do make a difference. They give you additional consideration. And so we always encourage students to take as many desired courses as possible. So really important to prioritize all the courses on this list for your major. Now, when you're looking at this list, you can see that these courses, the numbers are all in Cal Poly language, right? So these are the course numbers and names for Cal Poly specific courses. You're going to use that assist.org website that I showed you earlier to articulate to your community college, so you can make sure that you're taking the right courses or the right sequence to meet these requirements listed out on your course criteria guide. So as I mentioned, GPA is important for Cal Poly. So what is a competitive GPA for Cal Poly SLO? Well, we can look at the averages by college, and this is published on their website. But this is the average GPAs of admitted transfer applicants by college for the fall 21 cycle. Now, of course, these are averages. So I always encourage students to work to push even a little higher. You want to maximize your competitiveness, right? So let this be, kind of a guide to kind of push you higher and over that GPA average marker that you're seeing here. But for the majors in the College of Agriculture, you can see it's about a 3.42 average GPA. We know that there's some fluctuation in there because some ag majors are more competitive than others. College of Architecture, it's about the same. College of Business is higher. So we're seeing with the College of Business, business is an incredibly impacted major. So I would target a 3.7 GPA or higher to be competitive. The College of Engineering does have some flexibility within it as well with these GPAs. So if we're looking at like a computer science major, you're going to see it's more like a 3.7 or 3.8 average admit GPA typically for that major for transfer applicants. If we compare that to like a general engineering major, we're going to see the general engineering is usually about a 3.1 or 3.2 average admit GPA. So there is some fluctuation between those different engineering majors and the GPA to target. For the College of Liberal Arts, it's about a 3.57, and then the College of Science and Mathematics is about the same. So you can see how competitive Cal Poly is. And, this information does kind of vary each year. So these aren't numbers that you can count on either. The next year's cycle could be more competitive. They might be admitting less students during that cycle. So really good to just use this as kind of an idea for what GPA to think about targeting at a minimum. All right, so we talked about the CSU system. We talked about Cal Poly SLO specifics. Let's take a look at the University of California system now. So we've got 9 campuses in the UC system, and the universityofcalifornia.edu website is going to be your go-to for UC information for transfer. I'm going to put this in the chat for y'all as well. So you can use that website to do some research. You can see there's 9 campuses on this map. There's actually a 10th UC campus, but UC San Francisco is not on this map because they do not have undergraduate programs. They only have graduate level programs. So at this point in your educational journey, it's not an option, but you could always consider it down the road for graduate school. Now, the full preparation to meet UC selection criteria for junior standing is very similar to what we talked about for CSU transfer as a junior. Now, one important thing to note is that you do need 60 UC transferable units, and sometimes courses at community colleges might be CSU transferable and not UC transferable. So it's very important to double check your credits if you're thinking about a UC transfer, and double check assist.org, double check your class schedule or your catalog to make sure that your courses are also UC transferable. Assist.org is the go-to for UC major prep information. And then the minimum eligibility for transferring to a UC is called the UC 7 course pattern. So this is what you need to be eligible to transfer to a UC campus. You essentially need to have 2 courses in English composition. One is going to be that general writing or English composition course at your college. And the second is going to be an English composition course in critical thinking. You also need to have a transferable math course that's UC transferable. And then 4 additional courses from at least 2 of the following GE areas on the IGETC pattern. So 4 courses from at least 2 areas within arts and humanities, social and behavioral sciences, physical and biological sciences subcategories. That's what the UC is looking for to meet minimum eligibility for admission. If you are looking at certain campuses, so only, I believe it's some majors at UC Berkeley do encourage you to have your IGETC completion. Some of our UC campuses, or I'm sorry, they do require IGETC completion. There are a few majors that require IGETC completion. There are some UCs that recommend IGETC completion before transfer. But to be eligible as a transfer applicant, you really just need that UC 7 course pattern at most UCs for most majors. And when we're talking about STEM majors, again, you have all that major prep that you need to do for your major. So this is where that 7 course pattern comes into play and allows you less GE to focus on so that you can really dive into those major prep courses they want. Now for UCs, because these are some competitive universities, you're going to want to have at least a 2.4 minimum GPA. And this is if you're a California resident. But you are going to need a higher GPA than that if you're thinking about some of our competitive, highly selected campuses. And when we're talking selected campuses, we're talking like UC Berkeley, UCLA, some majors at Santa Barbara, Davis, UC San Diego, Irvine. So it's important to look and see what's a good target GPA for your major, or talk to your counselor about that as well. Now, the UC system has a fantastic guarantee program called UC TAG, and TAG guarantees transfer admission to one participating UC campus. Now, there are 6 campuses that participate in the TAG program: Davis, Irvine, Merced, Riverside, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. And if you're interested in any of those UC campuses, I really encourage you to look to see if you will meet the requirements for tagging, and if your major is an eligible major for tag. Some majors and some colleges, like the College of Engineering at certain UCs, does not accept tag. So there are some exclusions. So it's important to look and make sure that your major is accepted for tag at your UC campus that you're interested in tagging. But really the way this works is that as long as you're meeting the specific requirements for your tag school that you're interested in, and these requirements are a minimum GPA that is published on what's called the tag matrix every year. It's a document that the UC system publishes to show you what the specific criteria are for tagging for that cycle. And you can do a simple Google search for UC tag matrix to find the link to that information. But you're going to look at the GPA requirement for the school you're interested in, major preparation requirements, if there are any, unit requirements, and then English and math completion dates. There are a couple other little nuances to tag as well, but if you go through that tag matrix, you'll get a good feeling for if you could qualify for tag. And if you do, I highly encourage you to submit a tag application, because how nice is it knowing that you're guaranteed a spot at one of these tag campuses. Now, a tag is a separate contract that you're going to submit in September, the year prior to transfer. So this month, right now that we're in, is tag month. If you're thinking about transferring for fall of 23, then you want to make sure to submit that tag application by September 30th, because that is the hard deadline for submitting a tag contract. Now, to submit the tag contract, you're going to use a tool called the Transfer Admission Planner, or UC TAP. And I know there's a lot of acronyms that we're talking about here. This is another one. But the UC TAP is a tool that you can start using whether you're in your first year at your community college or your final year. This is a great tool to use. You create a login. It's a portal that you'll go into with your login. And then you're going to enter all this information about yourself into the TAP. So there's information about you, personal information, demographic information, any support programs that you are involved in or that you want information about. You're going to put your academic history in here. So the schools that you've attended, the courses you've taken at that school, your grades, the courses that you have in progress, the courses you have planned. You put all of that good information into this TAP here. If you had AP exams in high school, you're going to put that information in there as well. And then it asks you what UC campuses you're interested in and what majors you're interested in at those UC campuses. Now, through the TAP, your UC reps can actually reach out to you and give you information about support through application season or cool information about your major or the program you're interested in. All sorts of great things. So it's a really neat way for your UC reps to communicate with you. And then also your university transfer center coordinator at your community college can communicate with you as well through the TAP tool. So they can send you a little message through there saying, here's what we've got going on this fall to help you through transfer application season. And then underneath that, you can see there's the link right there, apply for a transfer admission guarantee, apply for tag. So if you're thinking that you want to tag this September for next fall, don't delay. I'd start working on it tonight. Talk to your counselor about it tomorrow to get more information about that program. And then for everyone else, consider using that TAP tool. I'm going to drop the link to this website in the chat for you all so you can pull that up. But this is a great tool to start using wherever you are in your transfer journey. And there it is in the chat. When we're talking about the UC, I always, I feel like I'm always preaching this message about the UC Blue and Gold opportunity or UC Blue and Gold scholarship, because I feel like it is such important information to get out there. And if you don't know about this already, it's critical to understand that if your family income is less than $80,000 a year and you submit your FAFSA by March 2nd, which is always the priority deadline for FAFSA or free application for student aid, it's that financial aid application that students fill out every year. If you submit that FAFSA and you are admitted at a UC campus and your family income is less than $80,000 a year, you can qualify for the UC Blue and Gold Opportunity Program, which actually pays your system-wide tuition and fees for 2 years for transfer students. That's a savings of about $13,000 a year because you get your tuition and fees for free. And it's pretty incredible to look at the data on this and see that 67% of transfer students at the UC system receive this opportunity, this scholarship, and do not pay tuition and fees. So if you've ever thought the UC was out of reach because it was too expensive, I want you to think again on that. There's also another scholarship if you don't qualify for this, for the CSU and the UC systems. It's called the Middle Class Scholarship. And I just read an email today that came out from the state that said that they increased the maximum amount of income to $201,000, I believe it was, a year. Don't quote me on that. But that number is what stuck in my head. But now if you are under that amount, then you can qualify for the middle class income scholarship as well. But it's incredibly important to submit that FAFSA application online by March 2nd in order to be eligible for these scholarships and fantastic opportunities. So let's look at the application process here. So if you're in your final year, this is important information for you right now. If you're in your first year or you're not quite at your final year yet, just kind of take a mental note of this because we don't want you ever to miss any deadlines. So really for the CSU and the UC systems, you can submit your application for fall transfer between October 1st and November 30th. That UC application has already been open since August 1st. It opened up early. It's always August 1st that it opens early. The CSU application will open on October 1st. Now, these schools might take spring transfers as well. So if you're thinking about a mid-year transfer, you could think about looking at the list of CSUs or UCs that accept spring transfers. And in that case, you would be applying over the summer. Now, for the CSU application, there's no essay involved. They also do not accept any letters of recommendation. For the UC system, they do have these 4 personal insight questions, and that's the way of the UC getting to know you as an applicant. So it's a way to write to your strengths and let your strengths shine in that application. Think of it as the way that the UC is interviewing you. So we want you to invest some good time and energy into really allowing yourself to shine through and your strengths to come through in those PIQs. Now, for both of these applications, there's an application update that happens in January. So even though you submit your application in November, you have to log back into that application in January and put your fall grades in there and then update your spring class planned schedule. So that's an important step in January. Most CSUs and UCs start processing applications after that January academic update. Now, some schools also have a supplemental application. So if you're thinking about San Diego State or Cal State Long Beach or San Jose State or UC Berkeley, you're going to be emailed information about a supplemental application in January. And you usually have a few weeks to fill that supplemental application out. It's incredibly important not to miss this step, because if you do, then you're not eligible for admission. Each campus application costs $70. So it's a $70 application fee per campus. But within each of these applications, there's a built-in fee waiver. So there's a fee waiver system where it's going to ask for your family income information, and then you're going to be notified in that application if you qualify for the fee waiver. If you do, you get 4 applications for free. So we always encourage students to maximize their options. If you get that fee waiver at both systems, go ahead and put at least 4 applications out there to each system to give yourself 8 really good options. And so you'll see that fee waiver inside of the application itself as you work through the application. Now, after you've submitted your applications and gone through all that process, students are typically notified of admission between February and April, depending on the campus that you're applying to. So we're going to briefly touch on private and out-of-state campuses. It's a different process and different system, because typically our out-of-state universities or private universities do not have articulation agreements with your community college. Sometimes they do, and if you dig around on their information for transfer students on their website, you might see a link to a system like Transferology. Some schools use that, and it actually is a database of courses that might work from your community college. But in general, there aren't articulation agreements established for the majority of out-of-state and private universities. So instead, what you're going to want to do is do some research. You're going to want to use those university websites to research information. You're going to want to look at how many units do you need to transfer to that university. Many times it's much less than the amount of units needed at a CSU or a UC campus. So definitely you'll check out how many units you need to be eligible to transfer. You're going to see what transfer requirements they have, if any. So sometimes they might say you need an English class, a math class, a foreign language. It varies based on the school. You're going to look at the application process and the deadlines for that university, because those all are going to vary as well. And then I always think it's important to reach out to the university rep for that school that you're interested in, and maybe schedule a virtual meeting with them or start an email conversation with them to ask them questions. And ideally, you want to ask that rep for an informal evaluation of the coursework that you've completed at your community college, so you can get an idea from that school of how many credits will actually transfer over. I've worked with students in the past that have transferred to a private university and were shocked to find out that less than half of their credits transferred over towards their bachelor's degree. So doing this work on the front end can really help save you that shock and give you a good idea of how much of your work will actually transfer towards your degree. Now, if you're thinking about out of state, there's a great website to check out called the Western Undergraduate Exchange. It's called the WUI program for short. And I will drop this link in the chat for you all as well, so you can take a look at this. But there are these 16 partner states that California is one of the member states for. And within those 16 member states and territories, you can get a serious tuition discount if that school participates in the WUI program. So you're going to want to do some research on this website to see if the schools you're interested in out of state are one of the member schools, and if your degree is one of the degrees that's eligible for a WUI discount. And then check out that tuition savings. I put Boise State here as an example. You can see that for resident students that go to Boise State, they only pay $5,500 a year for tuition. As a non-resident, though, you would pay $22,400 a year for out-of-state tuition. With this WUI program, though, you're going to save $14,000, and you will pay $8,200-ish, $8,300 a year with the WUI. So really cool website to check out if you're thinking about out-of-state options, and it can be a great way to save some money. All right, so we're kind of coming towards the end now. I just want to share some transfer tips with you all. So first, if you have not decided on your transfer major yet, this is a great time to meet with a career counselor at your community college. Do some research online, maybe do some personality or interest assessments to see which majors might be a good fit for you. That way you can start doing your planning with the counselor, and you can work to develop that student education plan that'll help map out all your classes that you need to take from start to finish for the universities that you're interested in and the major that you're hoping to transfer into. Our university reps are fantastic, and a lot of them have virtual visits available to students. Some of them might even be coming to your campuses to meet in person. So it's always great for students to connect with those university reps if you do have any questions specifically for them about their campuses or tag requirements or anything else. I also believe it's really important to tour campuses, because you might have this idea in your mind of what a campus vibe is going to feel like, and then you go to that school and it's so different than what you had imagined. So I think it's a great idea to go tour campuses in person. If you can't make it to that campus to tour in person, do a virtual tour on their website. Most schools during the pandemic did put virtual tours as an option on their website, and you can still access those. But it still isn't quite the same as putting your feet on that campus, walking around, checking out the campus culture, seeing what it's like around the campus too, in the town or the city that it's in, going in and talking to people in that major program you're interested in to find out some highlights about their majors. It's a really a fun experience to be able to tour campuses and feel those university vibes. So I highly recommend it if you can. And then lastly, use your university transfer centers to help with your planning, to help with your applications. Whenever you have questions, if you're trying to figure out what schools might be a good fit for you, no question is a bad question for your university transfer center folks. We're all here to help you along your journey to transfer. And I know some of your transfer center coordinators personally, they're wonderful people. So make sure that you use their resources and their websites. They might have some great information available for you on the website. And I think we're just right at about time. And I am so thankful to y'all for taking time out of your busy days to attend this workshop. And it always impresses me when students actually show up to workshops. It really is reflective of your drive as a student and your determination to invest the time towards meeting your transfer goals. So thank you for attending. I want to be able to answer any questions that you might have for me. So feel free to put any of these questions into the chat if you'd like. If you feel like you got all the information that you needed from this presentation and you don't have any questions, you can feel free to leave the meeting whenever you're ready. But if you do have any questions, I'm going to stick around for another 10 minutes or so, and I want to be able to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, I saw a question come in. Do classes from junior colleges, so I'm assuming we're talking about California colleges, transfer over to other states like UT Austin? That is a great question. And that is something that I wish that we had like more concrete information to answer that question. But unfortunately, your community colleges aren't the place to go for that information. That would be something to ask UT Austin directly. Now, I think it's pretty safe to assume that in most cases, or in, I should say not most, many cases, if you're taking classes on your IGETC GE pattern, those classes should be the most likely to transfer to out-of-state university classes that your community colleges has to offer. So those are the ones we would really hope that out-of-state university would accept and use towards general education or towards major prep requirements. But the only way we can know for sure is to go to that university rep and ask them to look over your Cuesta, or not Cuesta, your community college courses, whatever school you're at, and to give you some indication of what courses they think will transfer. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions? There are no bad questions either. There's all questions are good questions. And if you're thinking of one, I'm sure others are too. So feel free to use that chat and put any questions in there. All right, we had a question come through. Almost done with the AAT at Cuesta. Working as a high school paraeducator makes me want to teach high school. Oh, that's a really good question. Really good question, but let's talk about changing your major. So first of all, it is much easier to change your major at the community college level than it is to change your major at the university level. So if you're getting that little feeling inside, like maybe your major wasn't the perfect fit for you and you're wanting to consider something else, now's the time to talk to a counselor to see what additional requirements there might be, if any, to switch your major. I really do think it's an important time to get that ironed out before you apply and before you transfer on. Specifically, if we're talking about Cal Poly SLO, we know that it's really hard for students to change their major once they're admitted at Cal Poly. So this would be the time to make sure that any major prep requirements for that new major you're considering can be met in that final year. And I will say that sometimes with certain majors that require a lot of major prep, it might be hard to do that if you're in your final year. It might be hard to map out all of those classes that you need for the other major that you're thinking about now. So I would encourage you to talk to your counselor and think about options and to look at those major requirements. for your new major that you're considering and see if it could be something doable. Maybe they could help you map out a plan for what that new major would look like and see what that timeline looks like, and if it might be something you could complete in your final year. All right, a question came in. How can you tell if you're on the right track to getting the degree you want if a California community college doesn't necessarily specialize in that? How can you tell if you're on the right track to getting the degree you want? And so are we talking about a four-year university degree that the community college doesn't really have that specific degree at that community college? Okay. Yeah, that can be a challenge. That's where you're going to work with your counselor. Sometimes at your community college, you're not going to find the same majors that are given to you as options for a transfer student. Like an example of this is if you're thinking construction management and you want to go to Cal Poly SLO or Chico State for that major, your community college might not have a construction management major or program. So what you need to do is work with your counselor to look at those requirements for those universities that you're interested in and map out a plan that will work for those schools that you're thinking about. Now, if you're thinking out of state, and you're thinking about a university out of state, that's where we have to loop in those university reps many times to get confirmation of what classes will actually work for you for transfer. Many times, though, we can assume that if you're working on your IGETC for your general education pattern for out of state, and if we look at the course descriptions for your major and we can try to match our courses at our community college back to those course descriptions that are required for that major at the school you're interested in, we can get a good sense of if we think those courses are going to work for you for your out-of-state university or private university. But then it's always important to bring those back to the rep to get the confirmation in that. A question came about UC TAG. Yes, if you apply to TAG, can you still apply to other universities? Thank you. That is a really good question. Yes, you absolutely can. So tags are not considered a binding contract, meaning if you submit a TAG application, you know you're admitted through TAG to whatever school you submitted that TAG contract to, you have the option to choose to go to that school or choose to go to another school if you've been admitted somewhere else. So we always encourage students to tag as a backup plan, at least, so let's say you could tag UC Santa Barbara for a certain major, but you also want to apply to UC Berkeley, Cal Poly SLO, UCLA, and see if you get into those other schools. If you get into all four of those, you get to pick whichever school you want to go to. You're not bound to that tag and having to go to that UC if you've tagged. It just gives you that as kind of that fallback option that you can count on. Great questions, everyone. Thank you for asking these. All right, how can you tell which JCs, California schools, are the feeder schools to certain schools? That's a really good question. There is actually, I believe it's the schools that are kind of in the local service area, and there's a guide in the CSU website that outlines that out. Let me see if I'm going to stop share. I'm going to see if I can find that, and then I will drop that into the chat for you. But this relates to CSUs and their local service areas. All right, so here is that link for you, so you can check out local service areas and which schools for each CSU campus are considered their local service area schools. Good question. We have 4 more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you all for your time. I hope you found this information helpful and useful. And please do talk with your counselors, talk with your university transfer centers to get any other questions that you have answered. Okay, we got another question. What are some great extracurriculars if you want to get into the schools like Berkeley, UT Austin, UCLA? So yep, we're talking about some very competitive and very highly ranked schools if we're looking at university rankings. For extracurriculars, on the UC application specifically, there is a section where you can put in your extracurriculars. You can put in if you work, you can put in any volunteer work that you've done, any extracurricular activities that you have done on a regular, or that you do on a regular basis can be entered in there. If you've received any awards at your community college, or if you were on the honors, if you received honors, that can go in there as well. So what they're looking for is well-rounded applicants, and they're looking for students that have some interesting things about them to contribute to that application. Sometimes with transfer applicants in the UC application, we don't see a lot listed in that extracurriculars area. So it would be great to do a little brainstorming and think about all the things that you do with your time. Like, how do you spend your time? And think through, you know, if there's anything that you want to get involved in at this point in your academic journey. If there's a club on campus that you could maybe get involved in. I will say though that Berkeley and UCLA specifically really like leadership. So if you could get not only involved in a club, but also have a leadership role in a club or any other extracurricular that you do, we've heard it straight from the reps that they really do like students that demonstrate leadership. So getting involved and showing leadership is a really strong recommendation. For UT Austin, I haven't looked at that application in a while, and I'm not sure if they use the Common App. But my hunch is that you're probably going to be writing some essays. And just like with the PIQs for the UC system, the personal insight questions, that's also the place to really write to your strengths, any hardships in your life that you've overcome and that you have really learned from and grown from, you can address those as well in there. But they do want to see and kind of learn from that application about you as an applicant. So really, you could talk to your counselor and brainstorm some of the things that you could include in that application to help you really come across as a well-rounded applicant. That's a great question. Thank you all. It is 5:30. So we will go ahead and conclude this workshop. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and thank you again for attending.
Thank you, Kate. That was awesome.
All right, thanks.
You're a really good presenter. Your flow is very easy and very good presenter.
Thank you for that. That's so nice to hear it. Sometimes you wonder, you know, you're like,
no, super, super easy. Good. I mean, it's not easy to do, you know, a 90-minute presentation, especially with the complexities of transfer and Cal Poly and stuff. So that was very, very well done. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I'm happy to do it again if